in the middle of nowhere, an outpost so forgotten even the stars had stopped sending postcards. Jonas Callahan stumbled into a labyrinth of half-dead circuitry and broken promises. The place had once been a humming station of interstellar research, but now it looked like a scrapyard that had lost a bet. Metal ribs of fallen towers poked out from the sand like the fossilized bones of some ancient star beast, their once mighty conduits leaking sparks like confetti at a very depressed party. Jonas was used to that kind of place. He preferred it, in fact. The hum of forgotten tech, the tang of ozone, the smell of challenge, it all suited him far better than the manicured corridors of the Federation's high cities. Besides, he'd never been one for crowds, or rules, or haircuts, judging by the mop of brown that curled over his forehead like a defiant antenna. He'd come here on a rumor, a broken prototype, a whisper of ancient tech so advanced it made even the Federation's brightest minds sweat. They'd given up, of course, but Jonas had a thing for lost causes, and an even bigger thing for the parts those causes tended to leave behind. He ducked under a low-hanging cable that sparked with a tiny shower of blue. "Easy there," he muttered, his voice carrying just enough sarcasm to make the place seem less empty. "Don't short-circuit yourself on my account." The cable fizzed in reply, as if offended. The main lab, a cavernous dome of cracked plasteel and flickering lights, held her. She lay on a platform that had once been the pinnacle of her people's engineering, its base adorned with alien script that danced like starlight in the shifting glow. Her skin shimmered pale under the erratic overheads, a soft lavender hue that made Jonas think of dusk on Titan's moons. But it was her ears that caught his breath. Long, delicate, and tapering to graceful points. They curved above her head like silvered leaves in a solar wind. They were beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. Jonas cleared his throat, determined to focus on the job. "Well," he said, rummaging through his battered toolkit, "looks like you've had better days." Her eyes opened, violet, deep as nebulae, and filled with a weariness that seemed older than the galaxy itself. "You're human," she observed dryly, her voice a blend of music and dust. "I suppose it was inevitable." Jonas grinned, unable to resist. "I'm the best worst thing that could have happened to you," he said, brandishing a spanner that had seen better millennia. She blinked, her ears twitching in what he chose to interpret as mild amusement. "Is that supposed to be reassuring?" "Absolutely," he replied. "I'm here to fix what they all gave up on." He gestured to the sparking panels around them. "That, and maybe teach you some really terrible jokes." She raised an eyebrow, her long ears flicking like curious antennae. "Terrible jokes?" "The worst," he promised. "Like, why did the asteroid refuse to go to the party?" "Because it was feeling a little spaced out." He waited for her reaction, praying to the ancient AI gods that she'd at least smile. And after a heartbeat that felt like a star expanding, she did. Just a small one, but it lit her face like a solar flare. Jonas exhaled, relief washing over him. "All right," she said, voice softer now. "If you can fix my legs, maybe I'll let you keep telling jokes." Jonas winked. "Deal. Now let's get to work, and maybe, just maybe, we'll walk out of here together." Jonas started with the easy parts. Loose wires, corroded circuits, and panels that had more cracks than a Martian diplomat's ego. The hum of ancient tech filled the chamber, a mechanical heartbeat that had lain dormant for decades. He hummed along, badly, like a subpar karaoke machine left into zero gravity. Every now and then, he shot a glance at the alien woman, her long ears flickering like starfish caught in a solar wind. "You know," he said, tightening a bolt that looked suspiciously like it had been gnawed on by gremlins, "your people sure had a thing for fancy wiring. It's like a cosmic knitting project gone wrong." She tilted her head, a tiny smile ghosting across her lips. "You humans think everything is primitive unless it's held together by duct tape." Jonas snorted. "Duct tape's the backbone of human civilization. That and coffee, and maybe—" He paused, examining a hairline fracture in one of her leg's neural conduits. "Occasional wild optimism." Her laugh was soft but genuine, like a nebula blooming behind her eyes. Jonas felt something catch in his chest, some ancient emotion he hadn't bargained for when he'd signed up to fix the impossible. He coughed, clearing his throat. "Anyway, I'm going to try rerouting this signal through your secondary synaptic array. Should be as easy as—" He paused again, frowning. "As easy as teaching a Martian vole to juggle plasma grenades." She rolled her eyes. Well, sort of. Her eyelids did a slow blink that might have been exasperation, or might have been an ancient alien gesture for, "You're a complete idiot, but I appreciate the effort." Jonas took it as a win. Sparks danced like fireflies in the air as he worked, his fingers moving with a confidence that belied the occasional tremor in his voice. Every time a connection clicked into place, he'd mutter something like, "And that's another cosmic hairball untangled." She watched, eyes steady, ears trembling now and then as new currents coursed through her neural pathways. The ancient tech fought back like a stubborn dragon, belching error messages in half a dozen dead languages. Jonas answered every error with a grin and another bad joke. Why did the robot go on a diet? Too many bites. She stared at him, unblinking. "I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that," she said, but there was a warmth in her voice that hadn't been there before. Gradually, like a star learning to shine again, her legs began to twitch. At first it was just a flicker, like a dying filament, then a tremor. Jonas nearly dropped his tool in surprise. "Well, look at that," he breathed. "You're practically dancing." She lifted an eyebrow, her ears arching like twin cosmic question marks. "I wouldn't call that dancing, more like a malfunctioning gravity well." Jonas chuckled. "Hey, baby steps. Or in your case, baby twitches." He checked the calibration one last time, sweat dripping from his forehead. He'd bypassed a dozen failed modules, rerouted 3 core power lines, and probably violated at least 2 interstellar safety codes. But the impossible was happening. The alien woman's legs were waking up. She stared at him, her eyes wide, a mixture of fear and awe. "Can you really make me walk again?" Jonas met her gaze, his grin crooked, eyes shining. "I'm a tinkerer, not a miracle worker. But sometimes a little stubbornness, and a few bad jokes, can do the trick." Her lips curved into the faintest of smiles. Jonas felt his heart do a flip. "Then let's keep going," she said. "Let's make the impossible possible." The lab seemed to breathe around them, a living thing with lungs of corroded metal and veins of flickering wires. Jonas swiped a sleeve across his brow, smudging grease into a dark streak that made him look like a half-mad prospector on a dying asteroid. He leaned back, surveying his handiwork like a cosmic artist admiring a particularly messy canvas. Sparks arced overhead, casting brief shadows across the alien woman's long, delicate ears. She watched him with a mix of curiosity and skepticism that suggested she was still trying to figure out if he was a genius or a complete lunatic. Probably a little of both, he mused. "All right," he declared, his voice tinged with an optimism that would have made a Federation politician cringe. "We've got a working synaptic interface, mostly, and a partial power reroute through the auxiliary node. Now comes the fun part." He reached into his toolkit and extracted what looked like a hybrid between a plasma scalpel and a dentist's drill. "We test your legs." She arched an eyebrow, her ears quivering. "With that?" Jonas waggled the device. "Best tool I've got. Don't worry, only a 70% chance of catastrophic failure." She actually laughed, soft, like a star's sigh, and he felt a little of the tension ease from his shoulders. He crouched beside her, the tool humming with potential energy. Every inch of her leg had become familiar to him over the past few hours. Every hairline crack, every ancient inscription carved by engineers who thought themselves gods. "Okay," he said, meeting her gaze. "When I say go, I want you to think about moving your toes. Just a twitch, like you're trying to scare off a Martian sandfly." She took a deep breath, her long ears trembling as though they were picking up the vibrations of every star in the quadrant. "Go," he whispered. For a heartbeat, a long, drawn-out eternity. Nothing happened. The hum of the lab seemed to fade, leaving only the quickening rhythm of his own heart. Then, like the first hesitant flicker of a newborn sun, her toes shifted. Just a fraction of an inch, but enough to send a thrill of wonder through him. He grinned like a madman. "You did it!" he shouted, pumping his fist in the air. "You moved your toes!" She blinked at him, her eyes filled with a light that hadn't been there before. I moved my toes, she echoed softly, a tremor of disbelief in her voice. Jonas let out a laugh that bounced off the cracked dome overhead. It's the small victories that count. Today, toes. Tomorrow, the galaxy. She shook her head, ears flicking. You humans are insufferable. Jonas waggled his eyebrows. Insufferably charming. She rolled her eyes, but there was no hiding the smile tugging at the corners of her lips. He reached out, his gloved fingers brushing the alien script that ran along the conduit of her thigh. Okay, let's try the ankle next. Think of dancing or kicking a particularly annoying human, whichever motivates you more. She gave him a look that suggested she was weighing her options. The latter, she said dryly. Definitely the latter. He laughed again, the sound echoing off the cracked walls like a promise of better things. Bit by bit, inch by inch, they worked their way up her leg. Each movement was a triumph, each twitch a cosmic celebration. Jokes flew like comets, some hitting the mark, others burning up in the atmosphere of her deadpan humor. Yet with every laugh, every spark, every tremor of awakening muscle, hope bloomed like a nebula in the darkness. Jonas felt it too. Something more than just circuits and wires coming alive. Something human, something that couldn't be measured by any scanner. And for the first time in a long time, he let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, the impossible was possible. Jonas wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his sleeve, smearing an unholy blend of grease and cosmic dust across his face like a tribal warrior from a very confused planet. The lab's low hum filled his ears, a comforting rhythm amid the chaos of misbehaving circuits and half-awake AI modules. He leaned over the alien woman, his eyes tracing the delicate lines of her legs, now alive with trembling potential. Her long ears twitched every time he adjusted a sensor or muttered a half-baked joke. If your ears get any more twitchy, he teased, I'm going to start thinking you're a secret antenna for the Galactic Federation. She tilted her head, her violet eyes steady, a small smile blooming like a supernova. And if your jokes get any worse, I'm going to file a diplomatic complaint with the nearest black hole. He chuckled, the sound bouncing off the cracked dome overhead like a meteorite skimming a planetary shield. You think the black hole would take you seriously? She raised an eyebrow, her ears angling toward him like curious satellites. Have you ever tried telling a black hole a joke? Jonas pretended to think. No, but I did once tell a neutron star that it was a real heavy conversationalist. Her groan was a thing of beauty, like the mating call of a cosmic whale. He grinned. That's the spirit. Laughter's the best lube for stuck circuits. She gave him a look that suggested she might prefer silence, but the corners of her mouth betrayed her. With a practiced hand, Jonas guided the calibration module along the length of her thigh, watching the ancient script glow as the circuits sang their hesitant song. How's it feel? He asked. She closed her eyes, her long ears trembling. Like someone turned the stars back on, she whispered, voice thick with wonder. Jonas's grin softened into something gentler, a warmth that even the cold vacuum of space couldn't freeze. Good, because I'm not giving up on you. I've got a lifetime's worth of cosmic jokes to share, and I'd hate for them to go to waste. Her laugh was quiet but genuine. That's either the sweetest or the most terrifying thing anyone's ever said to me. A small burst of static crackled through the air as Jonas rerouted a stubborn node, its protest sizzling like a small sun in rebellion. Don't worry, he muttered. We'll get there. Even if it takes me 1,000 tries and 1,000 bad puns. She rolled her eyes, the motion somehow elegant, even as a faint glow of pink lit her cheeks. You humans are unstoppable, she said. Annoyingly unstoppable. Jonas's grin widened. That's our species motto. Right after, if it's broken, hit it with a wrench. He gave the module a gentle whack for good measure, and it responded with a hopeful hum. Then, miracle of miracles, her legs shifted. Not just a flicker or a twitch, but a slow, trembling lift that sent a shiver through Jonas's chest. He held his breath as she stared at her own movement, like a star witnessing its own birth. You did it, he breathed, his voice hushed, reverent. She blinked, disbelief and joy colliding like galaxies. I did. He let out a triumphant laugh that echoed through the lab. That's it. That's the first step. Well, the first leg lift anyway. Baby steps, or lifts. She laughed too, a sound like the ringing of distant stars. Don't get ahead of yourself, she said. I'm still stuck on this table. Jonas winked. One small step for legs, one giant leap for us. Jonas stood beside her, the battered toolkit at his feet, its contents now a chaotic jumble of spanners, fuses, and makeshift gadgets that defied even the best interstellar manuals. His hair stuck up at odd angles, streaked with cosmic grime like a war medal for the galaxy's most stubborn mechanic. But none of that mattered because she was standing. The alien woman's long ears trembled, her legs, patched, soldered, recircuited, held her weight for the first time in 2 decades. The cracked dome above them seemed to hold its breath, the broken consoles casting trembling light across her face. She was radiant, the old pain replaced by a fierce joy that made Jonas's chest tighten in ways he hadn't expected. She took a cautious step forward, then another, each one shaky but determined, like a newborn star finding its place in the cosmos. Jonas hovered close, arms half raised like a starship's emergency thrusters, ready to catch her at the slightest stumble. Hey, he joked, voice thick with awe. You're walking better than I drive a landcrawler on an asteroid field. She laughed, the sound like cosmic wind rattling through starfields. That's a terrifying thought, she said, but her voice carried a warmth that felt like sunrise. Each step brought her closer to the exit, the vast portal that opened onto the sands of a long-dead world. Once that site had seemed like a prison, a horizon she'd never reach. Now it shimmered with possibility. She paused at the threshold, her long ears catching the dying echoes of the lab's ancient hum. Jonas, she said softly, turning to face him. Why did you help me? Jonas scratched the back of his neck, his grin crooked and uncertain. Because sometimes, he said, you just can't leave someone, broken when you know you can fix it. And besides, I'm a sucker for long ears. She arched an eyebrow, her smile teasing. That's your reason? He shrugged. Well, that and I've been told I have a thing for lost causes and terrible jokes. She shook her head, her eyes bright. Thank you, she whispered, for everything, for the laughter, for the hope. Jonas swallowed hard, his heart doing a little cosmic dance. Any time, he said. And hey, you've still got to teach me your people's language, so I can butcher it with even more terrible puns. She laughed again, and it felt like a gift. They stepped outside together, the twin suns low on the horizon, casting the sand in shades of lavender and gold. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying the scent of old metal and new beginnings. Jonas glanced at her, his grin soft but steady. So what's next? She tilted her head, her ears catching the wind like alien sails. We walk, she said. We walk, and we see what waits beyond the stars. He nodded. Sounds like an adventure. And hey, he raised his eyebrows, mischief dancing in his eyes. If we find any more broken tech out there, I call dibs. She rolled her eyes, but her laughter rang out like a nova. Together they moved forward, one step at a time, leaving behind the ruins of a civilization that had forgotten how to hope. Jonas felt the weight of the stars above them, the vast unknown pressing at the edges of possibility. But with her at his side, every step felt like a promise. A promise that even in a universe of dying suns and broken dreams, sometimes a human tinkerer and an alien woman with long ears could find something worth fighting for. And maybe, just maybe, something worth laughing about too.